Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Family by Design. And this is our very first episode on what we call rapid fire. So we're going to be doing some of these in the days to come where we have some questions that are posed to us. And so we just give some rapid fire answers to some really important or hot topic questions. And so this time, Liz asked me 5 different questions that I gave some rapid fire answers to. So hopefully you get some really good nuggets, some wisdom, some help in these areas. And, a lot of times people are not needing help or answers to these particular questions, but you might be able to help somebody else who's dealing with some of this, and some wisdom will come to you that you can help in all kinds of areas of life. So bless you as you listen.
All right, we're going to do something a little more, a little different this time. We're going to call it rapid fire. I'm going to rapid fire you some questions, and we'll see how well you do at answering those questions. Although I really think, you're good at answering questions, so you like questions. So here we go. Are you ready? I'm going to put you on a time.
I'm ready.
No, I'm just kidding.
This is not very rapid so far, but...
Okay, so we just have some questions, and we thought it would be really great to just take several different things and let's just share on those, and we'll move on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and by the way, anybody that we're going to start doing this segment. You have questions for rapid fire, please send them to us. You can email us, however else on our website they can go to, and send us questions.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so should your teenager be allowed to date?
Well, I think dating is a word that depends on how you view it.
Right.
So I don't think that's the best pattern. And of course you don't either, because we parent the same children and we come to the same beliefs. It's like, I like the idea of courting better, to where people
what is the
are
difference?
in groups. So, the idea of like a courting, that kind of thing is, really you're just in groups of people. And our kids a little bit different because our families are close with the ones they're interested in, that kind of thing right now. And so, I think, there's extremes of this. You have parents that are like, I'm going to go let my kids go date and, whatever. And they just go off and they don't have they don't teach them anything about sex and hormones and whatever. And it's like, oh, you're attracted to the opposite sex. Oh, that's great. You guys go have fun. They're going to have fun. All right. And they're going to pay consequences probably. So you need to be able to help guide your kids. I think if you're trying to control your kids too much in it, and they're going to end up rebelling.
Sure,
on average, a kid is going to. So then, the other extreme is you're like, no, you can't date till you're 18, da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, but God put hormones in them and put a desire in them to be attracted to the opposite sex. So if you're going to just totally shut that off, I think you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to shoot them in the foot. And I think that there's a balance in there. You have to find a way to navigate those things with your children. And I think be set on your children not being alone with someone of the opposite sex. Yeah. Make it less of a rule and make it more of a conversation for them to enter into.
That's right, yeah.
So they understand why.
Yeah.
Don't be like, you can't go date and be alone with them. We'll explain to them why. Because I've told, like my boys, if you get alone with her, you're going to want to take her clothes off. You're going to want to have sex. Like, that's what happens when you get alone with somebody that you're attracted to. And it may not happen the first time or the second or the fifth or the 10th, but eventually, it leads to a place that God designed in marriage.
Right.
And so, but not outside of marriage. And so, you throw those things up. But to be like, no, you can't be attracted to somebody. Well, that's stupid. God put it in them for them to be attracted. So I think it's navigating what dating looks like, and then really helping them, because most kids, especially if you've raised them right, they want to be honorable. They don't want to have sex until they're married.
Right.
They do want to have sex, but their heart is ultimately, I want to wait till I get married. Well, help them navigate that, and telling them that they can't be attracted to someone of the opposite sex is never going to work. But also throwing them out to the wolves and letting them figure it out on their own. You're not helping them. You need to help navigate. Yes. So I think there's a middle road there.
Yeah. So having a lot of open communication, I think that is vital. Let them ask and answer questions and have lots of communication.
Yep.
All right.
It's good.
Next question. Is it okay for a wife to work and for the dad to stay at home?
Next question. No. This is somewhat of a matter of opinion. There are some things that are cultural with this, and I think there are also some things that are biblical. Mostly, I think that there are things that are instinctive, designed by God. So we do not have. So I'll give a little bit of my opinion, but I'll give things from God, how God created man and woman. We don't have a problem with women working, and we've been through seasons where you've worked more than me.
Right.
We're in a season now where you work as much as me.
Right.
And we juggle a lot. You juggle a lot in the home with the boys and homeschooling and all those things. And so it's not wrong. Was your question, is it wrong for women to work, or how?
Is it okay? Is it okay for a wife to work and for the dad to stay at home?
Here's the thing is that there's things that are in women to nurture that are not in men. I mean, just naturally, just it's very bare bones. Just naturally, men can't breastfeed, right? So that goes to show you that when a baby is born, the intent is for the mother to care for that child. And there's something in women to nurture that's just not in men. Now, can men be nurturing? Yeah, absolutely, of course. I've changed lots of diapers. I've warmed up plenty of baby bottles. You would pump breast milk, and there were times when you would go to work, and I would stay home, and I'd pull it out of the freezer and have to warm it up and give the baby bottles. And so there's no, it's not wrong, it's not evil, but I think the best design is for the mother to stay home and to take care of the household. But people find themselves in circumstances and situations where where the mom needs to work. And I think it's wrong when people get judgy about that.
Right.
But I think that also people will find themselves in circumstances to where they're both working and they don't need to. It's just because they have too many toys. And I really don't like it when I see moms working and, the kids are in daycare and dad's working. And, and I know this wasn't exactly the question, but I'm going to throw this in there anyways. And then they're both driving around brand new cars and live in a big, huge house. And other people are raising their kids. How about buy a smaller house, have lesser cars, and you raise your kids because you're the one that birthed them? Just going to throw that out there. But as far as a dad staying home and the mom going to work, I don't think it's the best. But, I mean, if the dad loves the kids, and, it can work. I just don't think it's the best because I think men need to put their hand to something. And I think women are the best nurturers. But if there's situations or seasons, it can work that way. I just don't think it's the best.
Okay. All right, next question. Are contraceptives acceptable to use for a Christian?
This is that most people would say, well, yeah, of course, absolutely. And we don't have a problem with that. There's different people that have different philosophies. And I think ultimately you have to hear what the Lord's telling you to do. If you have a problem with it and it violates your conscience, then don't do it. Some people have a philosophy of we're just going to have as many kids as we're going to have. And that's fine, but you're going to have to pay for all of them. Trust God to pay for all of them, right? And that's fine. I mean, we love kids. We have 4 kids, and we were fine with. Of course, we did lose one. We had a 5th, and we'll see that child in heaven one day.
Right.
But we felt like our quiver was full.
Yep. Because we were quivering.
Because that's how you know when your quiver's full, and the thought of another one makes you quiver, right? So then what do you do? What do you do with that? So then you either you do some kind of procedure, or you have you use some kind of contraceptive, or you stop having sex. But we shouldn't do that because the Lord, it's not going to happen. I can tell you that. The Lord gave us that for part of to be in marriage.
Right.
So then some people say, oh, you should just have as many as you want to. Well, sometimes people run into where they're having challenges physically, and they either need to trust God to get healed, or they need to stop having children. Right. And so there's no condemnation any which way you go. It's right for families to reproduce. And by the way, if you're somebody who hasn't been able to reproduce, there's no condemnation. Just continue believing the Lord, or it's good. Adoption's good, or just, whatever. But I don't think that there's a right or wrong thing. The Bible doesn't really have much to say concerning this. There's some people that have taken some scriptures, like there's a verse in Ezekiel where it talks about under the law, if a husband were to die, then it was right for the brother of that husband to go and marry the woman and have children with her. And there was an example where the man, this is very graphic, but where the man, it actually says this, that he actually spilled his semen on the ground and did not impregnate her. And that was shunned upon. So there's people that have said that's why we know that contraceptives is bad, but that was a totally different scenario. All right. So, we don't have a problem with contraceptives. I just think you have to, what do you feel like is right for you? What do you and your spouse agree upon? I think those are the things. Those are very private matters.
Right.
And I think that every married couple has to do what's right between them and the Lord. A contraceptive is not the same as an abortion. A contraceptive is keeping pregnancy from happening. Abortion is after a pregnancy has happened, and then that baby is aborted. We are 1,000 million gajillion % against abortion.
Right.
But if you're going to keep from getting pregnant, I don't see anything in the scriptures where that's wrong. Because a life doesn't begin until conception, and conception can't happen until the sperm meets the egg.
Right.
So once that happens, so then when people get into these like morning after pills or these different kind of things, there's different things that women can have, different kinds of whatever IEDs or different things that they can have that will actually abort a baby if they get pregnant. Women should not have those, because then if they do get pregnant, they wouldn't even know it, and then that contraceptive would abort that baby. There's no form of abortion that should ever be allowed that's ever okay, ever, at any point. So as long as that's not happening, you and I don't have a problem with contraceptives.
Right.
I think it's fine.
Yeah. It's philosophy inside. It's just something that between a husband and wife that you have a decision that you make. So
Yeah.
Communication is vital.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Next question. Okay. What is the difference between controlling and leading? So, in relationship, probably in more of a spousal relationship, when a husband is leading, what's the difference between leading and controlling?
Well, leaders have followers. Controllers have abused people.
There you go. Is that as simple as you're going to put it?
There's a lot I could say about it, but no. If any leader is, so if you're making people be subjected to you, then you're controlling them, because submission is a choice upon the people that are submitting. It's not a decision by the one that's in charge. And so,
Yeah, that's good.
To me, that's one of the big, like I've heard people say, like, my wife needs to submit to me, submit woman, and if you're doing that, or you have that mentality, then, and she's, quote, submitting to you, all you're doing is controlling her. Submission is a choice. The Lord, this is why the Bible teaches us to submit to the Lord, because He doesn't make us submit to Him. He requires that of us in terms of our relationship working well with Him, and I'm happy to do it. I mean, He's phenomenal to submit to, because He's the best. He's the best Lord, and so it's my highest honor and pleasure to submit to the Lord. But He never makes us do that. That's a choice. So therefore, He's a great leader. He doesn't ever control. And husbands, the Bible says, to wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands, but then it also says for husbands to love their wives as Christ loves right. the church. So the submission and the loving go hand in hand. And so a woman should not be submitting herself underneath of any kind of abuse, including control. But when a husband is loving, that wife, in almost all cases, is willing to submit under the husband's leadership. So the question was the difference between leadership and control.
Right.
Yeah, leadership really is about setting an example to serve and to love and not to demand. But someone who is demanding things. Now, there's times when I'll have to say, absolutely, we're not doing this. That's wrong. I'm putting a stop to this. There's times as a leader when you do that. But if that's your normal everyday method of operation, something's wrong, and you're probably being controlling.
That's good. Okay, last question. What do you do with aging parents? Or I guess a better way to phrase that is, how do you navigate aging parents?
It's a great question because it's something that everybody has to deal with. And there's different family dynamics that are very different. Every family has different dynamics.
Right,
Let me say it that way. And there's no easy way to deal with that. But I will say that in America, it's different than in other countries.
Right.
So in a lot of the Eastern countries like Asia and stuff like they don't put their families and their elderly people in nursing homes. Like that's not how they do that. In America, that is how we do that. And nursing homes are fine when it comes to that point. You just need to make sure that your parents stay honored. When people get to where they're elderly and they need taken care of, the honor needs to be there. And that can be really, really difficult depending on different family situations. And you can have siblings, like, if you have 3 or 4 siblings, they may not all agree on how that parent's supposed to be taken care of. Just
Right.
literally talked to someone the other day about this very thing. And so those are really difficult situations. So those things need to be taken in prayer, and the parent needs to be honored. If a parent gets to the point to where they can't take care of themselves and it becomes a burden to the family, I think it's wrong when parents say, you better not put me in a nursing home. Like, I think it's wrong when they do that, because if they haven't made preparations and financially taken care of themselves, it's wrong for them to demand things of their children, and their children just completely drop their entire life, especially when they're younger and their children are younger and still raising kids. It's not right for a parent of little children to also have to take care of the parent who's aged. We've been there before. We know what that's like. But I think it's wrong and we had a situation, with my parents to where my mom was not in good shape, and then my dad was dealing with major physical things, and we didn't have an option. It wasn't really fair. And we weren't mad about it,
Right.
And my mom's gone on to be with the Lord, and my dad, we're not mad at my dad.
Right.
It was the situation. So we had to do it. And of course, we don't have to take care of him now. He's able to take care of himself, and he's remarried and stuff. So you just got to navigate those things in every situation, but you have to stay in honor.
Right.
But I don't think it's right whenever parents are like, you better never put me in a nursing home. If parents are telling their kids that when their kids are in their 20s and say they're in their 50s, then you better start to figure out your finances to where you can have somebody take care of you, because it is not your kid's job to have to wipe your butt when they get older. However, kids, regardless of where your parents are at, if that's needed, then you might need to consider the fact that they did that for you. And when they get older, there might need to be some of that there. But I don't think it's right when parents just demand their kids to uproot their life and completely re-navigate their life to take care of them. I don't think that's the right thing. So there's a balance to all of it.
That's right.
And ultimately, you need to hear from the Lord on how to navigate that stuff. But I've seen a lot of parents that they'll get older and they just expect their kids who are still working And especially when they're really old and then their kids are old enough to where they're at retirement age and enjoying their grandkids. So now you got a great grandparent kind of thing. And they're like, you better take care of me. Da, 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 and they get real demanding. I don't think that that's right. I think that they definitely should not be neglected because there's situations where they get neglected, and that's wrong. That's dead wrong. But people still have to be able to live their lives. So I would say for people that if they've not been able to financially set themselves up to have care at the end of their life, then, you might end up having to go in a nursing home.
But then pay attention to your parents.
Then you need to pay attention to your parents when they're in there. Yeah. You need to honor them. You need to pay attention to what's going on because nursing homes some of them are great, but they're notorious for not taking care of people.
If you have a presence there,
they're overworked and underpaid. It's not always their fault. They're understaffed.
Yeah.
If you have a presence there, your parents are probably going to get at least decent care.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you speak to this for 1 minute? We got about a minute left because you're a nurse by trade, and you've dealt with a lot of this stuff. So why don't you take a minute and speak to this?
Well, I think that's what...
Maybe you don't agree with me totally.
No, I do. I think that's exactly, you have to navigate the situation because every family is so different and so diverse, and every situation is so different and so diverse because you could have a parent that you physically can't actually lift and bend and move and take care of, and you don't want to hurt yourself, and so I think then in that situation it requires more help, and then like I said, it just depends on family dynamics and communication and taking things before the Lord, but then just staying in honor. So I think you can't be so narrow-minded as to say that it can't be this way and it should be this way. You have to just take every situation as it comes and then honor and, trust the Lord and get to this place where you remain thankful because it's a very hard place to watch your parents age and not be able to, take care of themselves. And it's hard for the parents to have to need, to be able to rely on their children when, that's not exactly how you think life is going to go or how life is going to be. Like a parent doesn't usually get to this place where like, oh, I just can't wait for my kid to have to take care of me because I'm incapacitated or whatever happens. So, just remaining in honor and remaining in this position of servanthood and gratitude that, that you can and that you do have ability and that, our parents, they spent, sometimes, most of the time, time taking care of us, bringing us into the world and years raising us. And shouldn't we have the dignity and the honor that they're human beings and that they brought us into the world that we can. I
think the biggest thing that we're both saying here is you have to stay in honor. Yeah. The Bible says honor your father and your mother. Yeah. That's good.
That's the biggest thing.
That's good.
I think.
Well,
all right.
Our first rapid fire.
I like it.
There we go.
All right. Well, if you have any questions for us that you want answered on rapid fire, make sure that you
about marriage or family.
Yeah, send them to us.
Yep.
And that's it. We're gonna end with that.
There you go. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Family by Design. I pray that you were blessed as you listened to the word of the Lord for your life today. I want to encourage you to go on and leave us a review and a 5-star rating. If this ministry is blessing you, go to our website at www.wartmen.org. There you can find more resources, and you can also consider partnering with this ministry. If you like what we're doing, we just pray that you would at least join us in prayer and consider supporting us financially as we take the gospel deep into the hearts of people. Gospel preached, hearts awakened, and nations reformed.